I'm Nora Nolan. I'm a comedy writer. I'm writing on season 2 of Trial and Error, and I was in the 2016-2017 Warner Brothers workshop. I didn't come directly to writing. I came through comedy. I started as a stand-up comic. I basically heard in the stand-up community that a more stable way to pursue comedy was television writing. It had never even dawned on me that people wrote TV, because I'm not from LA and I didn't know that was a job. So I started looking around at TV writing. That's how I got into it. TV writing is like, there's so many rules to it. And I don't know how I personally would have learned them without classes. A lot of people read books. I prefer to take classes to learn structure, to learn to be around other writers, to learn how to give feedback, to learn how to get feedback from multiple people. Those things are sort of, you need a class for, I think. When I started taking classes, I didn't know that there were different kinds of comedies. I didn't know what to know. I know that I liked TV and that I knew I wanted to be a comedy writer. I see myself as a family network comedy writer. I say family because I've written a lot of stuff. I have a close family and I write a lot of stuff about families. But in general, I guess a network comedy writer. Trial and Error is a network comedy. With this whole pursuit in general, I would say I didn't realize at first how hard it was, or how long a road it was. And by the time you realize that you might not make it, it's good to be in deep enough that it's too late to do anything about it. I had moved my whole life to LA from New York, and my whole family's back there, and it was sort of like I had already made the biggest step that I was going to make by coming out here. But also, there's rewards along the way that make it seem like, well, there's more than one way to have your dream come true, or to get where you want to go. A few months after I moved out here, I got a job writing a comedy digital series for a production company, and it was like, all right, well, that's validating. Somebody thinks I'm funny enough to pay me way more than you can't find jobs like that, except here. You obviously meet a lot of people in LA who want to be TV writers. When you're struggling to figure out if you're good enough to be a writer, and you're reading other people's scripts, and I at some point I read somebody's script, and it concerned me that it almost seemed like everybody in this town was told that they could do it. There can be a little bit of BS, and it results in people pursuing things for a long time with not a lot of rewards. So that freaked me out at some point, because I have goals outside of this career. It's scary. You could waste a lot of time here. It's hard as a writer because or at least for me, I'm do you have some major insecurities and you need constant positive feedback, but there aren't tons of opportunities to get it. So you sort of have to take these little moments and store them in your brain so that you can feed off of them until you get your next one. And that's true now working too. I had my heart set on Trial and Error because I had read the pilot, and it made me genuinely laugh out loud. And then I watched the first season and it was so good. Anyway, I really wanted to be on that show. And it didn't get renewed until late. And so when it did, I got a meeting on it, and I had a very short showrunner meeting. He is eccentric, and he Yeah, I guess he offered me the job in the room, and that was a really exciting day. Trial and Error is a mockumentary. It's basically like a spoof of Making a Murderer. So we borrow a lot of stuff from real true crime documentaries. So I just watched a lot and took a lot of notes, and like the Serial podcast, because there's like a podcast element to season 2. The way our show runs is we're a 10-episode order, and we're all pre-production right now since October, and it's now February, and we'll be for another month, and then shooting March through May. So we don't have to deal with shooting at the same time, and we'll have all 10 scripts table read before anything is shot. The first week, we just started breaking the first half of the season. So we did the major beats for the first 5, and then we went back and started breaking out in more detail episode 1, and then episode 2, and I guess we did the first 6. So it's very, very collaborative. There's a lot to be said for like breaking the mold, but sometimes I think people try to do it before they're ready. I do think it's really important early on to be like writing, like, because you see so many cable shows that don't seem to have a structure, but they do have like really important beats and like moments, and the characters always have like drive and goals. It's not just like 2 dudes like hanging around talking about stuff. And I see that a little bit, where it's like, just because goals can be a lot more subtle than that doesn't mean they don't need to exist. That's like a big thing I see in my like classes, or in general, students. When I was taking classes and stuff, like in my second class, my teacher was like, "Oh, I know a manager looking for comedy writers, like send me your script or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, wow." Like, it never even occurred to me that like these were people who would like could seriously help beyond teaching me writing, could help my career. And so I think sometimes I'm surprised that people, even though I wasn't aware of that, I'm surprised people aren't more aware of that and like don't kind of behave accordingly sometimes.